Hey, what's going on, Facebook? It is good to see everybody this evening and to get to spend a little time with you. So I'm jazzed that those of you that are hanging out are hanging out. And if you're watching the replay later, even cooler. I like that too. So I hope everybody's doing good. I am just off a trip and just made it back from Branson, Missouri. Got to hang out with the family and had a really good time. And it's good to be home, though. It's good to be home back in the office. And my whole goal this year is to travel and do more with family and friends. And so, already getting on that. Actually, had some sun, which I'm not even used to. My skin had no idea what to do with all that. So, if you're jumping in right now, it's good to see you. I am going to do this on a somewhat regular basis because what we're going to be doing is we've got this podcast that's been coming out called Serial Progress Seeker. And it's meant to be a behind the scenes of sort of, what I did. The question I always get, what the hell do you actually do, Ben? It is meant to be a behind the scenes and show people sort of what I actually do. And so that's what that is. We just had a new episode come out, and it was all about how I create content and how I put together things. And so what I'm going to be doing, and we're going to try this anyway. What I'm planning on doing is every time we put out a podcast, doing a Facebook Live or a YouTube Live, something to the effect of where we get to go through and explain some of this stuff in sort of a different way. So the podcast is very much an audio experience, and we're experimenting with it becoming a very visual experience too. So what I want to do is dive in and actually show you this stuff. On a Sunday night is the first time we're doing this, and I don't expect without any prep to have a lot of folks here live, but that's not really the purpose of this. Now, if you're here live and you ask questions, that's awesome. But the whole point of this is to teach something and to teach something cool. So one of the big questions that I get like all the time is, do you sleep? Because we're putting out so much content. There's so many things that we're putting out, from paid programs to podcast to blog posts to videos like the one you're watching right now. And so, people really wonder how you're able to do it. And the real, thing behind all that is practice. But there is a method to how it all works. And so, one of the things that people ask me about is, how do you create a $500 program? Because that's a typical price point for the things that I sell, which is just information. It's just me teaching, just like this. How do you create something that is at a $500 price point? And how do you do it so fast? So a couple key things that I want to go through here real quick. Number one is I'm a giant procrastinator. So it's very, very difficult for me to get things done if I just allow myself to say, okay, well, I've got to go do this and I've got to create this. One of the big ways that I'm able to do the things that I'm able to do with creating content, creating programs that we sell is deadlines. So I'm very calendar based, and I'm very much about telling people I'm going to do something. So the secret behind how I create content is pretty simple, okay? I typically sell what I'm selling before it's actually been created. And I promise all the people that buy from me that I'm going to have it created at a certain date. More importantly, I usually do my training programs where I'm teaching people things the first time live. So I'm very big on selling a ticket to a live event and then profiting on the recordings of that live event later. That's how I do it. So I figured that a few people might be interested to see the process. On the podcast, I sort of walk everybody through it. If you go to serialprogressseeker.com, you can sort of see this, whole thing of mess of content where we walk you through how I do stuff, but that's more of an audio experience. So I wanted to actually break down what it looks like when I actually do create something. Okay, so when I do create something from scratch, what does that actually look like? What does that actually feel like? So that's what I want to show you right now. And getting into the brass tacks of all this, I want to show you very much from scratch what it feels like for me when I get started. So I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey here. All right? Take you on just a little bit of a journey. imagine that you've got something you're good at. So number one, I never teach anything that I'm not already good at. But being good at something and teaching something are two very different things. I know a lot of people that are experts at something and they cannot create a program to sell online to save their life because they take too long. So that's, if you're that person, hopefully this is going to help you. So imagine that it is a Monday, or imagine it's a Sunday, Monday. And in your head, you have this thing that you want to create. So I want you to sort of get in my vibe. I've got something on a Sunday that I think I want to create, and I want to sell it by Friday. Okay, so, I know that if I've got to do that, I've got to start letting people know. So I've got to let people know Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday that I've got this thing that I'm going to be selling. So typically what I'll do is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I will prep people on what I'm going to be selling. On a Friday, I open up the gates. We send out an email to everybody, and we start selling it. Now, I'm going to go through that before this is all said and done, but I want to show you pretty much how this all comes together. Okay, so imagine that I am selling something, and I've got this thing. So Sunday through Thursday, I've prepped, I've sent out emails, I've posted on social media. I've told all these people that know I'm halfway decent at something. Maybe I've run Facebook ads. I do all these things. I tell people, hey, I'm going to be teaching you how to do this thing. And that is my Sunday through Thursday. Now, Sunday through Thursday, I also have to come up with a way to sell it. So without any further ado, I'm going to show you, each and every one, how from scratch I create a program. Okay, so at this point, all I've done is pre-promote. I've got an idea of what I'm going to sell. I got an idea of what I'm good at, but all I've done is pre-promote. So this is typically what I'm staring at. What you're staring at right now is what I'm staring at. This is when you first open Keynote on a Mac, this is what I am looking at. Okay, I'm looking at blank slides and all that. Now, before I even get into that, I'm typically looking at this screen. Now, what you're looking at right now is products. I'm selling products. So I use something called Samcart. I'm a big fan of Samcart. Brian and Scott Moran are some guys that are behind this. But here's what I'm looking at. I go up and I'm clicking new product. So I got to come up with a name. So what I'm going to do is we're going to come up with a name for a product. So I'm just going to say product's name, whatever it would be. And I would say this is going to be a $499.95 product. And then I would put whatever the description of it is would be here. So product description, and then it would be, let's say, a one-time payment. Okay, so create the product. So what I'm going to do here is pretty simple. I have, this kind of stuff here. I would have to send them to a thank you page. I'll get into that in a second. But this is the ball game right here. I'm going to go in. I'm going to go to Checkout Design. I'm going to select this classic checkout page. And I'm going to go to Header, Footer, Background Color. I'm going to set all these to black. By the way, I have a lot of help with this from my team, but this is the basics of what we do every week. So I'm going to probably do billing address, and I'm going to do a guarantee. I'm going to typically do a 60-day guarantee because that's our standard. And then I'm going to add a bullet point, but my bullet point title is what you're getting inside of the program. Now, before I even do a PowerPoint, I'm going to say, what am I going to teach them? I'm going to say, okay, the full overview of the whatever the product name method. Okay? And then I'll say inside you'll learn how to do thing. Some cool thing that you want to do. Now, obviously I would write this stuff out, but you get the idea. That's the sample overview. So then it's part 1. And then part 2. And then typically, just so you are aware, the things that I'm doing here are going to be quite literally 5 parts. I usually try to keep my trainings to 5 parts. So anything that I'm doing is coming down to 5 parts. Each of those trainings, however, may be 5 parts inside of each part. So let's just say that we are doing a course on product creation. So part 1, how to find your audience, something like that. Part 2, how to come up with a product idea. Part 3, how to map your product out. How to create the product in less than 24 hours. How to create the sales material and drive traffic would be part 5. And then maybe I'll put in some bonuses of, bonus 1. You guys get the idea, though. That would be sort of what I'm doing here. So I've got all these things here. That's pretty much done. I'm going to save the changes. And what ends up coming out is something that looks like this, right? So it's a checkout page. And so I'm literally, unlike a lot of people, I'm going to email people to this page. So my emails are going to do all the selling, all the sales stuff, but I'm going to email people to this particular page, and they're going to buy. Now, what happens when they buy? Typically, when they buy, they come out on the other end. So that, we've got this thank you page here that was on the first page. I've got to put in a place that once they buy, they've got to go to a thank you page. Typically, my thank you pages look like this. And what this is just a place that is, hey, thanks for buying. And one of these links down below here goes to a webinar sign-up page. So that is my typical full setup, is that whole thing. I'm emailing to sort of tell people about what it is that we're going to sell. Then I'm jumping in and I am going to straight up say, hey, and this is the page. There's no fancy sales material, but go here. And then after that, I'm going to have a place where they buy. If they buy, they're going to this page. This page, one of these links here, is going to just lead them straight up to an ugly webinar sign-up page where we're going to do the live training. So at this point, I've done most of my sales stuff without a sales letter, without any of that fancy stuff, without a website. It's going to be sales copy either in an email, on a Facebook, post, whatever, and it leads straight to one of these. And now, listen, can you make more sales if you have a sales page and all that stuff? Of course. But the first time I do this, it's not to make the maximum number of sales. It's just to get the darn thing done. Okay, so from there, what do I do? Well, from there, that's when I have to stare at this thing that we looked at the very beginning, this ugly, this ugly sort of, PowerPoint or Keynote, in this case, stuff. So what I'm typically doing here is when I look at this, I'm looking in and I'm saying, okay, I got to actually create something. So I'm going to select something that looks like this, and it's going to build the presentation for me. So here's the presentation. And this is literally what I do when I first get started. So here would be the title of the product. And if there's a logo, I would design that. Put my name here. And then here's what we're doing. We're going into add slide. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a table of contents. So what you're going to learn. Pretty simple. And then what I'm pretty much doing here is I'm putting the parts together. Remember, I've already sold this. I'm putting the parts together. So here's the method overview, would be the start. And then it would be part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5. And all of those things, by the way, go right back to what we had over here, which is these parts, the parts that we did here. Now, that seems pretty obvious, right? So, but it's all these parts that we did here. I'm just going to transfer those over to this. So, I won't do all of these because that would be boring to have to watch me do that. But what I'm doing is I'm going to go part 1 is how to find your audience. Okay, and then I would put all those things down there. From there, typically there's going to be a logo up here. I'm going to just copy this slide. And this slide is going to say part 1. So I'm going to go over here. Remember, I've populated all this at this point. Except for I'm not going to do that. I'm going to paste and match style. So this would go here. Logo would be above that. So whatever my logo for my product would be, and that can be designed pretty easily. And then literally, I'm just going to have this where it says questions. Now remember, I'm doing this live, so after every section, I want to do a question section. And then I'm just duplicating this for however many parts there are. So if there's 5 parts, there's 5 parts there. So I will lay this down, and once that's done, my very next step is once I get all of these things laid out. So I've got 5 parts, part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5. That's when I will now sit down and actually design the slides. So for the next probably 3 hours or so, remember, you can only do this if you're good at this stuff already, if you know like what the topic is really well. For the next few hours, what I'm going to do is, it's usually about a 3-hour process. I'm going to sit down, I'm going to find pictures, I'm going to find bullet points, and I'm going to explain everything that I'm doing. So this process, if you already know how to do it, you've sold the thing that you've got to perform, basically get up on stage and perform. I usually sell all this stuff on a Friday through a Sunday, and either on a Tuesday or a Thursday the next week, I go live and I give this presentation. So here's how I beat my procrastination. People are depending on me to do it because they've already bought it from me, okay? So now I'm in a rush. I have to go in. I have to prep this training. I do the slides the way I just showed you. I go in and I put out the stuff that's in my head. Remember, you can't do this unless you know how to do whatever it is you're teaching. You can't just make this stuff up. But if you already know what you're teaching, then I have to go in, and it takes me about 3 hours to put this presentation together. And then the day of live, I actually go give the presentation. Once the presentation is all done and we've done it live, this may be an hour-long presentation, or it may be something that takes me, 3 hours to actually present this to people. But I'm taking questions the whole time. I'm doing everything live. I use GoToWebinar, by the way. Once that's all said and done, we take that one big recording and we chop it up into pieces. So all of the parts, each part would be its own piece, and then we have our members area. So typically, I sell that stuff the night before I actually have to give the presentation. I'll take what's in my head that I knew people wanted to know because they bought it from me. I'll put it down into a presentation, and when we actually do the actual presentation, that's when we get to step out. Now, here's the actual interesting thing about all this. When I first started doing this, I thought it would be very scary, right? Because I was like, I've got to do it live. And what if they ask something I don't know? But the best part about this whole process, and this is the thing that just blew my mind. Number one, I've already made the money on the beginning. So I know people are interested in it, or they're not interested in it, if not a lot of people buy it. But number two is, when I get on live with these folks, the questions that are asked typically are the kinds of things that make the training even better. So I walk out of creating a product, an information product where I'm teaching something. I walk out of teaching that product, and I have a lot of really, really great stuff because we did it live. So the cool thing is once I'm done with it, that's done. I can literally sell that program as long as the information is still up to date. I can sell that program forever. So what will happen with me a lot of times is I will say, okay, on a Sunday, we're going to start selling this thing. We're going to start telling people about it. By Friday, we've opened the cart. We lead them from an email or a Facebook post directly to the sales letter, which is not a sales letter. It's just an order form. They buy. I've got the stuff. I'm putting the presentation together. Like I said, you can't do it unless it's up in your head already. So you can't fake this because you're going to be on live with people. But if you know the topic well, like if let's say you're a doctor and you're helping people get rid of headaches. Okay, well you know that stuff, right? You have a process that you go through every day. If you already know how to do something, then it's super easy to sell it, train live, cut it into pieces, and then go sell it forever. Where most people take just hours and hours and hours and weeks and months to put together a training program, guessing all the things that people want to see inside of it. I typically get ours done, and I know a few people out there that are very good at this, get this training done live in a span of about 24 hours from when they start the presentation to the end, and the whole sales process takes about a week. That right there has been an absolute secret for me, is just getting things done quickly, because I have all these cool things that I've been doing since I was a chiropractor to market my practice, and then as an internet marketer to market other people's businesses and to help other people grow their businesses online. All these cool things that I've learned how to do. But if I just sat on them, people wouldn't know how to do them. And people want to pay to be trained to how to do things in a very good way. All right, so I don't know what else to cover on this, but hopefully that gives you a little behind the scenes of how I create. And like I said,
number one, you have to know how to do this stuff that you're training. And, you can't train someone to do something you haven't done yourself. But if you do know how to do it, it's super easy. If you will set yourself a deadline, sell tickets to the live event before you even have it ready to go. You don't have to have it ready to go. You just have to sell tickets to the event. Get on, do the event live after you've done about 3-4 hours of prep, just like I showed you earlier. And then once you're done with the training, cut up the replay into actual training sections. And then that's when you can go get people to promote it for you if you want. You can go sell it, using ads 24/7. But that's how we've been able to create an incredible amount of content over the years. And I hope that helps you guys put all this stuff together. And I just know there's so many of you out there that have such great things in your head that you know how to do, but you can't make any money off of it because you think it takes forever to create these training programs and put it together. Was the first time that I did it live terrible? It wasn't the best, but I tell you what's so cool. When I started doing this stuff, I tell you, it really became easy to get good at it because you get comfortable doing this stuff in front of people fast. All right, that's enough for me tonight. We've done about 20 minutes here, so hopefully that gave you a little behind the scenes. I would love for you guys to jump in and go to the Serial Progress Seeker blog. We've got the new podcast up that goes through the method that we just talked about. Check it out. If you're on iTunes, go ahead and check out Serial Progress Seeker. Let me know what you think. Leave me a review. And I hope you enjoyed this little bonus extra behind the scenes of how we do a lot of this cool stuff. All right, be good. Take care of yourself. If you're just jumping on, you're watching the replay later, let me know what you think of what you just saw. What else do you want to know? And that's going to help me with future episodes of Serial Progress Seeker. Plus, I'll be around to answer your questions in the thread after. And if you guys dig this, let me know. And I'm going to be doing a whole lot more of this, getting my face out here because, I don't get to talk to you guys like this real often. I'm stuck behind a computer, and the rest of my year and from now on is all about being more out there in front of you guys, helping you guys with the stuff that is going to help you get the stuff that's in your head out to the world, because the stuff that's in your head needs to be out to the world. You guys are amazing. You know cool stuff. I want to know the cool stuff that you guys know, but it can't get out of your head if you don't know how to train people how to do it. All right, Ben here. Thanks. I'll talk to you all very, very soon. Until next time.